Hi, and welcome to Gogo Diaries Story Time. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the story.
This is Nyatsime River. That flows all the way down to Lake Chivero. We even have a college in Chitungwiza named after this river, Nyatsime College. But the important fact about the spot where we are is that it does not matter whether there is a drought or not. This pool here never dries out. It never dries out. What it means to me is that it's fed by springs which we may not have seen that flow into it or that bubble up into it. But it never dries out. And for me, I can actually sit here and have a moment watching the lilies. And look at the lilies. Reeds in our community, in our culture, are very important because traditionally, when women are sitting in the round hut, they'll be sitting on mats that are made using this exact reed. That's point number one. Children play with the reeds because you can come up with a musical instrument. I don't know how they do it, but I think it's very clever. They can whistle using reeds. And thirdly, when we bury our dead, before you put the coffin on the ground, they will always put a reed mat. I'm not sure why. I think it's pretty smart, but I'm not sure why. But they will always put a reed mat. It doesn't matter whether that person has been buried in the village here, in the communal lands here, or whether that person is buried in Harare, in the city. They will always look for a reed mat to put down on the grave before placing the coffin. So these reeds are a very important feature in the life of our people. But for me, when I look at those reeds, I imagine the Nile River and baby Moses floating among the reeds when his mother was hiding him from the soldiers of Pharaoh. That's just me. But this is a pond that will always bring memories because it never dries and it is sustaining life around it in a very special way. This is a typical spot along the Nyatsime River, which we used to frequent here a lot when I was a child. Because to do laundry at home at the homestead, it meant carrying buckets and buckets of water. So on a given day, we'd come to the river and would do our laundry as these girls are doing their laundry. When we had done the laundry, we would hang the clothes by the bushes, by the rocks, and then would then take time to have our bath. We always looked for a spot. This spot was perfect because it has flowing water. You don't go and start bathing or doing laundry where the water is not flowing. That is a golden rule that my grandmother told me. I never asked her why, but you needed flowing water. Now, when we look at these rocks, when we're now bathing, we looked for a spot that was different. If if you look at the texture of these rocks here, it's different from those ones. This one is rough. As we were bathing, because it was rough, we would use the rough surface to make sure we scrub our heels. So I would sit there. If I sit there now, I may not be able to stand up, I'm not sure. But I would sit there and I would scrub and I would scrub and I would scrub. And as I'm doing it now, I'm taking advantage of this moment to scrub my heels. So I would scrub and scrub and scrub, and then we would have little stones that we would use to scrub the surface of the skin, and would bath and go home clean. So welcome to my bathroom. As we continue our journey along the Nyatsime River, which is maybe a kilometer from my mother's hut, I want to show you this little well. It looks like a well, but in actual fact it is a spring. When everything else is dried up and the boreholes have run dry and the deep wells have run dry, as we were growing up, we knew that we could come to this place which they call Chitubu. Chitubu means spring. So this spring never dries up. You are guaranteed to have some water. The water is murky both in the spring and also in the river, because we have just had some heavy rainfall. And when there's heavy rainfall, a lot of things happen. It takes time for the dust to settle. But this water was safe for us to drink. It was the safest water. And the rules we grew up with were that you don't bring anything artificial to the spring. So you don't come with your chemicals, you don't leave your tin containers or plastic containers. You just come, you get your water and you go, to preserve the spring. And it's understandable when you look at this spring and the fact that it doesn't run dry. You can then understand why that big pool there does also not run dry. It always has water. There's one pool upstream that I featured. This is the second pool that also doesn't run dry. Portions of the river upstream can be dry, but when you get here to this pool, because of the spring, you are guaranteed that there will be water. Another spot that I really enjoyed coming to during my childhood, and you can see now that people are beginning to take advantage of this pool, and these are irrigation pipes that are feeding a homestead upstream. But all this is made possible because we are preserving Chitubu, the spring. So the conservation of natural resources are synonymous with our lifestyles in the African village.
Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe.